Ever wondered where in the Bible does it mention dating? Or how should one approach dating as a Christian? Well, let's delve into this intriguing topic. You may find it surprising that the Bible doesn't explicitly mention dating. Yes, that's right. The term and concept of dating, as we understand it today, doesn't appear in its pages. This, however, does not mean that the Bible leaves us in the dark when it comes to forming and nurturing romantic relationships. While the Bible may not lay out specific rules for dating, it does provide us with principles that can guide us in our relationships. These principles are timeless, applicable to every generation, and are relevant to all aspects of our lives, including dating. Let's take a step back and consider the purpose of the Bible. It is a source of wisdom, a guide to living a life that is pleasing to God, and a means to understanding God's heart and His principles. So even though it may not directly address dating, it offers valuable insights into how we should conduct ourselves in all relationships, romantic or otherwise. We find principles for preserving intimacy for marriage, avoiding sexual immorality, and prioritizing spiritual well-being in relationships. We're taught to value character and integrity in our partners and to align our purpose of dating with God's plan, with the ultimate goal being marriage. Throughout the Bible, there's an emphasis on relationships being a means of companionship and mutual support, a divine institution. It may not discuss dating in the modern sense, but it surely underscores the importance of healthy, respectful, and God-centered relationships. So, while you may not find the word dating in the Bible, you will find wisdom, guidance, and principles that can help you navigate the dating world. While the Bible may not mention dating explicitly, it offers principles that guide us in the right direction. To understand these principles, we need to appreciate the context and genre of biblical passages. Imagine you're reading a love letter written centuries ago. To fully grasp its meaning, you'd need to understand the era it was written in, the relationship between the people involved, and the customs of the time, right? The same applies to the Bible. Each book within it was written in a unique context, in a specific genre, and with a distinct purpose. This understanding is crucial when we interpret its teachings, especially those about relationships. Let's think about genre first. The Bible is not a single book, but a collection of books, each with its own style. It's got history, poetry, prophecy, letters, and more. Each genre needs to be read and understood in its own way, just like you wouldn't read a poem the same way you read a news article. You wouldn't interpret a psalm the same way you interpret a historical account. Now let's talk about context. When we say context, we mean the circumstances that form the setting for an event or idea. The Bible was written over a span of 1,500 years by over 40 authors in 3 languages on 3 continents. So understanding the cultural, historical, and literary context of a passage is key to accurately interpreting its teachings. Let's apply this to relationships. When we read about relationships in the Bible, we need to consider the historical context. For example, marriage customs in ancient Israel were vastly different from our modern Western customs. Also, we need to remember that the Bible doesn't directly address dating as we know it today. But it does provide principles that apply to our relationships. So whether it's a principle about preserving intimacy for marriage or prioritizing spiritual well-being, it's crucial to understand the context and genre in which it's presented. Only then can we accurately apply these teachings to our lives. Understanding the context and genre of biblical passages helps us to apply its teachings accurately to our lives. So, what are some of these principles that we can apply to dating? Let's delve into that. Firstly, the Bible instructs us to reserve certain levels of intimacy for marriage. Now, this might be a tricky concept in the world we live in today, where instant gratification is often the norm. But think about it this way. When you save something special for a special occasion, it enhances its value, right? It's the same with intimacy. When we reserve those profound levels of closeness for the sanctity of marriage, we're not just following a rule, we're enhancing the value of the relationship we're building. Next, we're urged to steer clear from sexual immorality. This is a serious matter, as all sins that a person commits are outside the body, but the sexually immoral person sins against his own body. This isn't about instilling fear, but about understanding the gravity of the act. It's about realizing that our bodies are temples of the Holy Spirit and we should treat them with the respect and honor they deserve. Finally, the Bible encourages us to prioritize our spiritual well-being in relationships. It's rather easy to get swept up in the whirlwind of emotions when we start dating someone new. However, we must remember to keep our spiritual well-being at the forefront. This means continuing to nurture our relationship with God, even as we build a relationship with another person. It's about striking a balance where our spiritual life isn't compromised for the sake of a romantic relationship. These principles might seem rigid or old-fashioned to some, but they're not about limiting our freedom. Quite the contrary. They are about enhancing our freedom and enriching our relationships. When we understand and apply these principles, we create a foundation for a relationship that is deeply satisfying and that honors God. But it's crucial to remember that we all stumble in many ways. Falling short doesn't mean we're doomed or that we're bad Christians. It simply means we're human. The beauty of grace is that it meets us where we are, but does not leave us where it found us. So if you've fallen short of these principles, remember there's always room for grace, for change, and for growth. These principles guide us to honor God in our relationships and to protect our spiritual well-being. As we navigate the world of dating, let's bear in mind these principles and strive to honor them, and in doing so, honor God and ourselves. But why do we date? And how should relationships progress according to the Bible? A question many of us have asked at some point, isn't it? The purpose of dating, as explored in biblical teachings, is not solely about finding companionship or mutual support, though these are certainly beautiful aspects of a relationship. At its core, dating should be about pursuing a relationship with God first. A strong spiritual connection lays the groundwork for a robust, fulfilling relationship. In essence, the purpose of dating is to find someone who shares your faith, someone with whom you can grow closer to God. But what does this look like in practice? Picture this: you're in a relationship where both of you prioritize your spiritual well-being. Together you pray, study the scriptures, attend church, and engage in faith-based activities. You encourage each other in your individual spiritual journeys, offering support and understanding when challenges arise. This shared spiritual pursuit becomes a strong, unifying force in your relationship, fostering a deep bond that goes beyond the mere physical or emotional connection. Now let's talk about the progression of relationships. A key principle here is the importance of character and integrity in a partner. As relationships progress, it's not just about shared interests or physical attraction. It's about recognizing and appreciating the character of the other person. Their honesty, their kindness, their patience, their commitment to their faith, and their integrity. These are the qualities that endure, the qualities that form the foundation of a lasting relationship. But how does this progression look? Well, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. It's about taking the time to truly get to know each other, to see each other in different situations, to understand each other's strengths and weaknesses, and to see how the other person lives out their faith. It's about building a relationship based on trust, respect, and mutual spiritual growth. And as the relationship progresses, it's important to remember to keep God at the center, to continually turn to Him for guidance, to pray for wisdom and discernment, and to seek His will in all things. This is what ensures that the relationship remains strong and healthy. To sum it all up, dating should align with God's plan, with the ultimate goal being marriage. So when you're dating, remember to keep these principles in mind. Seek first a relationship with God, value character and integrity, and let these guide the progression of your relationship. Because in the end, a relationship that is rooted in faith, that is built on a strong spiritual foundation, is a relationship that is truly blessed. The Bible also warns us about the pitfalls of dating unbelievers. Now that may sound harsh, but let's delve a bit deeper into what it means to be unequally yoked. Imagine a pair of oxen, one strong and the other weak. If they're yoked together, the weaker one could slow down the stronger or even lead it off course. In the same way, dating someone who does not share your faith can be like being unequally yoked. In relationships, we naturally influence each other. We share ideas, experiences, and even adopt each other's habits. This is generally a beautiful aspect of companionship. However, when a believer and an unbeliever come together, there's a risk that the believer may be drawn away from their faith or that their spiritual growth may be hindered. It's not about judging the worth of a person based on their faith or lack thereof. Each person is valuable and deserving of love. The concern here is about spiritual compatibility. It's about ensuring the most central part of your life, your faith, is shared with your partner. A shared faith can be a source of strength, providing a solid foundation for the relationship to weather life's storms. There's also the question of life's big decisions. How you spend your time, how you raise your children, even how you spend your money. These decisions are often influenced by your faith. When faith is not shared in a relationship, it can lead to misunderstandings, disagreements, and even conflict. Remember, this isn't about fear. It's about wisdom and discernment. It's about understanding the potential challenges and being prepared to face them. It's about seeking a partner who will encourage your spiritual growth, not hinder it. Entering into a relationship with someone who does not share your faith can lead to spiritual compromise. It's a warning, but also an invitation to seek relationships that will build you up in your faith, not pull you away from it. In conclusion, while the Bible may not explicitly talk about dating, it provides us with principles that guide us in our relationships. We've been on quite a journey today, delving into the sacred texts, not in search of a specific chapter and verse about dating, but rather to glean wisdom and guidance for navigating our romantic relationships. Let's briefly revisit the terrain we've covered. We began by acknowledging that the Bible doesn't directly address dating, given that it's a relatively modern concept. However, that doesn't mean it leaves us without direction. We learned the importance of understanding context and genre when interpreting biblical passages, and how this understanding can help us apply biblical principles to our own lives. We then explored the Bible's principles for relationships, which range from reserving certain levels of intimacy for marriage, to avoiding sexual immorality, to prioritizing spiritual well-being. Each of these principles, when applied to dating, can help us build relationships that are not only fulfilling, but also pleasing to God. Next, we discussed the purpose and progression of dating from a biblical standpoint. We recognize that relationships were instituted by God with the intention of companionship and mutual support. We also acknowledge that the character and integrity of a potential partner are of utmost importance, and that the ultimate goal of dating should align with God's plan, with marriage being the ultimate destination. Finally, we considered the Bible's warning against unequal yoking, the danger of entering into a relationship with someone who doesn't share our faith. This principle urges us to ensure that our relationships are built on a shared foundation of faith in God. Now, it's your turn to reflect on these principles and consider how they apply to your own life. How do these guidelines resonate with you? How might they influence your approach to dating? Remember, the Bible may not provide a rulebook for dating, but it does offer a roadmap for relationships built on love, respect, and faith. Did you find this video helpful? Please comment below and share your experiences as Christians navigating the dating world. We'd love to hear from you. Lastly, don't go just yet though. Watch the next video on your screen.